and welcome back to the Busy Brain podcast. I'm your host, Free Slam, and today we're going to be talking about hangover anxiety. We're going to talk about how we can kind of pick at it, how we go from being completely overwhelmed in the morning, absolutely shocked, to what to think in those moments and how do we break that down and feel better, and then to what are things that we can actually do to make ourselves feel better and genuinely feel better. So I have that, and then we also are going to discuss things regarding how I personally stopped drinking and why I stopped drinking, and really kind of tap into my reasonings on to why it really doesn't matter about what people think, and if that's the reason why you're drinking, it's just not worth it. So let's dive right into this week's episode. And I think that hangover anxiety for me has definitely stemmed even more when I went on medication. And I'm on an SSRI, and then I'm also taking a medication to treat my ADHD. And with the mix of both of those, my hangovers are so bad. It's kind of comical how bad it is, because it's so fucking scary. I am petrified. I wake up wide-eyed, gripping the sheets, sweating from every pore in my body, looking around the room where the fuck am I? And I could have had maybe 2 drinks the night before, and I was so fucking scared. It did not matter. And I don't know whether or not it was maybe the subconscious feeling of could I have forgotten something, because I don't have full control when I'm drinking because I'm on medication now, right? So when I have 1 drink, if I have 2 drinks, sometimes 2 drinks can get me as drunk as 6 would. But some days, if I have 2 drinks, I won't even feel it. So it's definitely a really hit or miss thing for me when it came to drinking on my medication, because I just found myself so all over the place all the time. And when you're drinking in those moments in time, it's really easy to remember back to that really fun night you had that one time a couple months ago. And those are the reasons why we keep drinking and the reasons why we keep doing this stuff. There's 100 other different factors to this, but those are the reasons why we keep drinking, because you look back to that one night and you want to feel how you were feeling in that moment in time. And in that moment in time, you're on the dance floor, you're on the patio, and you just feel included and involved and happy, and in an environment where maybe you feel that you belong, or maybe you feel you're heard, or I don't know what you're feeling in that environment. It could be a subconscious feeling, but you feel good there. And you want to go back to that night and how you felt in that moment, whether it be thinking okay, I'm going to have 1 more drink because then I'm going to get to this good drunk where I'm going to be happy and fun and exciting. I need another shot because I'm super right now I need to get up and energize. I want everyone to kind of shift their perspective on this and look at it from the view of what if we didn't care? And what if we didn't care if we weren't having the best night ever? And what if we didn't care that it wasn't we weren't drunk and we weren't feeling super energized at that moment in time? And I know that's really so much easier said than done, but to change your perspective from I need to do this for this, I need to drink this because of this, that's how kind of this goes into blackout, or this goes into these awful day hangovers. And these hangovers for me lasted days. They lasted so long. And when I say they lasted so long, I mean I would go out, let's say I went out on a Friday night. I had a great night. We went out from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. So what's that? 3 hours. And that's 3 hours. I remember all of it. I had 3 drinks, and that night 3 drinks didn't do a whole lot for me. And so in that point in time, I'm gonna talk about what would happen to me after a night out if it was a good night. And I only had 3 drinks and I remember the whole evening and I was out from, I don't know, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. So for me, it didn't matter whether I had 3 drinks, 6 drinks, blacked out, didn't black out. Like, it truly did not matter to me. I would wake up horrified, like fucking horrified, whether it be beside my boyfriend, whether it be beside one of my best friends, whether it be alone, like in my own bed. Like, I would be horrified. And like, it wasn't like something like I had felt before, like especially since I had started that medication, like my SSRI medication. Like, it was like nothing I had felt before. I woke up to this like extreme fear of like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, you don't know what's going on. You don't know where you are. You don't know who you fucking are. You don't know like anything. And I couldn't move. Like, I swear to fucking God, I could not move. Like, I was just like stuck in that position in my bed, and I was just like, was looking around the room like, where the fuck am I? And like, I'm in my bed at my house. And like, I shit you not, this would happen. Like, I would wake up and like, this would happen more often than not. And like, if for me, I'd think about it, like if I was going out on a Friday and then also going out on the Wednesday and like potentially going out on the Saturday because I'm in university, like, I can't do that to myself. Like, for me, it took me like hours to come back from that. And then if I thought I came back from that, like waking up like that, and like, it wasn't like, bear in mind, this is just all my mental game. This has nothing to do with how I physically feel. So mentally feeling like I don't even know what's going on. I'm just fucking scared. Like, I'm scared of everything. I'm scared of myself. I don't want to check my phone. I don't want to know what happened last night. I don't want to know, even if I know everything, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to remember it. I just want to move on. I want that day to be over. And whether I would put that front out or not, like, sometimes I would fake it and pretend like the day after was fine, which sometimes the day after was fine, and I would wake up just scared. Like, there was no doubt I'd wake up scared. I always woke up scared. There was no questions asked. But maybe I was able to like brush that off quicker, especially like when I lived with my roommates. Like, it was way easier for me to like brush that off because like, I could just go into one of their rooms and like talk about something else or go and do something and like have the company and have conversation to distract myself. Like, I didn't want to think about it. And so that anxiety levels stayed high for that whole next day. And then the day after, I became sad. So if I drank on Friday, Saturday I was scared and like just did not know what was going on and anxious. And I feel physically sick because I'm hungover. Like, I'm dehydrated. I probably haven't eaten enough because I woke up late. Like, I don't know. There's 100 factors to that one too. Then come Sunday, I'm sad. Like, I'm fully just sad. And I think about everything over and over and over again. I analyze every single conversation I had. And I think about what they think about me and what I could have said different and how I could have gone about this differently, XYZ. When in reality, it's like, why am I doing that? And like, why am I trying to like dig into like these reasonings as to why I'm a terrible person? Because I had a few drinks, when I don't care what people think. Like, I've done that work and I've tried so hard because I personally think that like, it's such a game changer when you don't care about somebody else's opinion. I think that it can absolutely push you farther because you do everything for yourself and it's not for the validation of somebody else. So when it comes to this like constant loop of hell that you're putting yourself through, of having day 1 scared, day 2 sad, and overanalyzing everything, and day 3 I would still be in the same boat and like, I was a perfectionist. I would make sure everything like made sense. And like, because you're drinking and God forbid you forgot some things, nothing would make sense to you. Nothing would ever add up. You don't have that control that you're seeking so much, and you're never going to get that closure. So I found like I could never necessarily cure that anxiety, and I could never walk away from it. I could never breathe out of it. I could never do any of these things. And I also found when I was drinking, I would panic. I'm going to go back to the point of how nobody cares and how drinking kind of like made me care necessarily, because I found that when I would drink, it was because I didn't want to necessarily disappoint the next person, or I thought I wouldn't be more fun if I didn't drink. And like, there was so many thoughts that would go through my head on, should I drink, should I not drink? Because like, I knew personally, like, it didn't make me feel good. Like, it could make other people feel good. Like, again, like, this isn't like me coming on here saying like everybody feels like this. Like, this is just like how I personally have felt, and like I know a lot of people do too. So like, you can come out and you can kind of take this perspective like as you will, but like, then again, like, I always kind of like push on to people is like, listen with an open mind, and like, remember, like, just because you don't feel like this doesn't mean somebody else doesn't. So put yourself into somebody else's shoes when listening to this. So when I would think about it, I would like not want to drink, but I would want to drink because I thought it was more fun if I drank. I thought that I would be more chatty if I did. I thought that people would actually like want to hang out with me and like not think it was weird. I thought people thought it was weird if I didn't drink. Like, people would question why. Like, it was more normal to drink than not to drink. And like, it still is more normal to drink than not to drink. And like, I'm not saying that that's necessarily a problem. I'm saying that that is how it makes me feel, and like, that's how I felt in that moment. So if I look at that, it was like, hey, Reese, like, oh my God. I was like, hey, Reese, you actually care a lot what people think because you're only drinking for them. And you know that, you subconsciously know that in the back of your head, like, but you just don't want to like come to that term, and you also like don't want to turn it down. Like, you don't want to not drink, and like, you think that that's your own choice. But I stopped drinking, and I'm not saying I stopped drinking on a random Tuesday. I was like, I'm gonna stop drinking. There's a nice little story behind that one, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect, and I've made some mistakes, and I made mistakes, and I have had to take accountability for drunk actions that I did not want to, because I do not like think of myself like that, and I don't think of myself as that person, but I did say that, or I did do that when I was drunk. And like, if you're going to drink, you also need to realize like, those are the repercussions you are going to need to face. Like, you can't get out of something because you were drunk. Like, that's just not the excuse. And if you're drinking, you're drinking, who fucking cares? But be able to take accountability for what you do drunk, and be able to take accountability for your actions, like for what you say, and all of the above on that one. So yes, I didn't stop drinking because I wanted to stop drinking. I had to. Like, there was no way I could keep drinking. Like, I was just becoming this person that I wasn't. And as much as like I knew who I was deep down, and like who I genuinely am, and like I am good in my own shoes and I'm good on my feet, it's hard to be good in your own shoes only 4 days of the week, when 3 days of the week you say and do these things that you just aren't, like, you don't mean, because you're drinking 3 days of those weeks because you're at school and you're partying. Like, that's just like, I couldn't put myself in that position anymore, because like, that truly just wasn't what I wanted in my future, wasn't what like I was seeing in that point in time. And on top of that, like, it didn't mean that I needed to like cut all my friends off. Like, all my friends, like, that doesn't mean every single one of my friends is doing what I was doing and like lashing out or like saying rude things. And I'm not saying that every single time I went out it was like this, but I'm also saying that when I did go out and that did happen, I didn't like that, and that shouldn't happen. And if you're drinking and you're being a fucking asshole to people, and this is happening on an occurring basis, like a reoccurring basis, then you really need to look at it and you need to take a step back and you need to look at yourself and say, hey, is this who I want people to see? Because if you're going to the bar and people are seeing you that night, no one's seeing you what you're really like. Some people might not even know your name. Like, most people probably don't know your name. Most people don't know you. They only know you that night. And that's just not what I wanted to reflect, like, of who I was. Like, that's not who I am. So I had to change that around because, like, it was happening way too frequently. I'm not saying you can't go up and you can't fuck up. Everyone fucks up. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying being an asshole isn't cool. And being, like, known as that person just isn't cool. So I personally had to take a step back on that because that was kind of the alley I was going down, and that played a role in my medication and played a role in how much I was eating in that day and how I was mentally and how I saw myself. Like, I acted how I saw myself in those moments, which projected onto my hangover anxiety, and that anxiety that lasted days and days and days, because I genuinely knew so much that wasn't me and that's not what I wanted for myself. But I just kept doing it. And, like, it's hard to look at yourself in the mirror when you just repeatedly keep doing something that you know you can change. So I didn't pity myself. I could hardly pity myself. I could hardly ask for advice, because if someone just said, you need to stop drinking, I'd be like, I know. I've been knowing that I need to stop drinking, but I just don't want to. And you need to want to. And, like, it took time for me to fucking want to. And yeah, okay, that's my goal on that one. But I'm gonna go back on to hangover anxiety and, like, how we can kind of decatastrophize those moments and, like, break it down and realize that, like, the thoughts that you're thinking and feeling about yourself aren't true. Been there, done that. I'm telling you, you're being an asshole to yourself and you need to calm down. Oh, see what's up? Oh, my lip gloss. So, believe it or not, when everybody wakes up in the morning, everyone thinks about what they did last night. Whether they regret it, whether they don't regret it, whether they had the best night of their fucking lives, whether they didn't. Like, people think about last night. So, people wake up and they think about it. You know what they do think about last night? Themselves. They think about themselves last night. And whether it be a situation that they were in, whether they saw something, like, it was them. They're thinking about themselves. So I would always kind of talk myself down and realize, hey, everyone's thinking of themselves right now. No one's thinking about me. I'm not, like, this, like, low-key sounds shitty, but, like, I'm not that important that everyone is, like, over analyzing every single thing I said, every action I did. Like, no one was looking at me when I, like, kind of tripped. No one was looking at me when I stuttered. No one was looking at me when I ticked. And quite frankly, who fucking cares? But no one cares. Like, it doesn't matter. And if they care, then why is that someone you're gonna give your time and energy to? Like, why are you putting that person in your life? Like, again, like, that's something, like, you would have to be, like, subconsciously, you know what you're doing and you know that this is what's gonna happen, but you need to actually be able to, like, look at it and know that it's the time to push that person away and, like, walk away from that. You can't change what you can't control. So, like, we can't go back to last night and take that conversation back. We can't do all of these things. All we can do is take accountability for it and go forward. We can face it and move through it. That's the easiest way we can do it. It's hard at first. That's why people don't do it, and that's why people don't face what they've done, like, straight on, because, like, it's harder to do that. It's harder to, like, be like, hey, so I said this last night. I don't know if, like, you took this the wrong way, but, like, I didn't mean it like this. Whether, like, you think they're thinking about it or not, like, I personally would just, like, say that. Like, if I said something, I don't know, like, I had a conversation with my friend and I was like, oh, like, you got your hair cut, and they're like, no, I didn't, and, like, their, like, face, like, looks, like, super, like, oh shit, like, I didn't get my hair cut, like, do you not like my hair, like, is my hair too short? Like, that's how I'm thinking. I'm like, oh my god, fuck, I'm an asshole. Like, I would go out of my way to, like, literally say to them, like, hey, like, I didn't mean it in a negative way at all. Like, I actually, like, I really like your hair. It looks really healthy. And I don't know, like, give kind of, like, what I was getting at. Or maybe it's more curled today. Like, I don't know. I would, like, give that 2 cents on it, because if I vocalize it, like I can't stem over it because like I've communicated it. And so if they look at me and they're like, oh my God, no, like not at all, like I didn't take it like that, I'm like, okay, thank God. But if I look at it then again, I'm like, then I hear like 2 weeks down the line, like, oh my God, Reese is a fucking asshole. She looked at me when we were at the bar and she was like, you got your hair cut, and she said it in like a really rude tone, like, I don't know. And like, I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I actually like said to her right on the spot, or I texted her the next day, or when I ran into her and was like, this is what I said. Like, you can vocalize it. Cause I personally, like, I overstimulate over like these, no, like not overstimulate, like overthink these things, like, and the littlest things I say, like, cause I don't want to affect people. So like, it's not a bad thing to just like communicate that to like that person, like they'd respect it if anything. So that helps me. So if it's like anything that you want to do it, just face it. You don't need to like pretend that maybe they don't remember, or I don't know, like that's a little weird, like I shouldn't say that, like it's okay. Like for me at least, like I'd rather communicate that to the person because I think that's the most mature thing to do. Because if you're not going to communicate it like to that person, and then we're gonna go and we're gonna chat about it to somebody else, and then like it gets around and you're like, hey, like I wish you would have told me like that's the way you felt, because like that wasn't like the way I intended it at all. And again, like I really hope no one's getting like this offended over like someone making a comment about like their haircut or like getting their haircut, but like this is just like my example. So I think that communicating it absolutely is something like you can do right off the nose when you like have these like overwhelming thoughts, to like get it going, because you can't fix what, like you can't change what you can't control. You can control that, and from there you're like, you can't control anything else, right? Like you can handle that situation as it goes. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this week's episode. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, you guys can always leave an anonymous message for future podcast episode recommendations, guest recommendations. If you guys want to leave any advice, pieces, comments, concerns, I'm not sure. I will see you guys on September 11th for a special episode where we will be introducing our first guest.